also some football news. The Pittsburgh Steelers said goodbye to George Pickens, sent him to the Cowboys for draft picks, getting at least a third-round draft pick. And then I think there's some other paperwork in there of swapping some picks as well. And let me start there because that just happened this morning. Still finalizing this. Jerry Jones hinted at the Cowboys doing something prior to the draft or during the draft that maybe they were going to make some trades. I don't know if this was his big move, but he gets George Pickens. And one thing the Steelers do is they don't do very well when they draft wide receivers. Now, they did get Antonio Brown, four-time All-Pro. Chase Claypool had star written all over him, but he didn't last, I think, more than 2 years in Pittsburgh. And Deontay Johnson, he had a 1,000-yard season. Now George Pickens, his second year in Pittsburgh, had 1,100 yards. But once they get traded, it's like what Bill Belichick would do. He would trade you a year early than a year late. Antonio Brown never had a 1,000-yard season after he left Pittsburgh. Chase Claypool went from promising star to never getting more than 500 yards after being traded to Chicago. Deontay Johnson, 375 yards last season after leaving Pittsburgh. Now on his fourth team since leaving Pittsburgh. So he went from Pittsburgh to Carolina to Baltimore to Houston. Now with Cleveland, he signed a one-year deal and a contract that's not guaranteed. And now you have George Pickens. Pickens in the last year of his contract. And you get a guy who does, like he's a guy, if you see the highlights, you go, golly, that guy's good. And then you watch the game and you go, God, that guy's not good. When you talk about targets, and I don't know what the average is for wide receiver, but, when you look at a catch percentage, it's probably in the 70s, I would guess, for wide receivers. With Pickens, I think it's in the mid to upper 50s. That's not good if he's your go-to guy. You got DK Metcalf. Now, there's a lot of ways to look at this. So I'm looking at this at the Cowboys. Okay, you get a guy last year of his deal, wants to prove that he can get that next contract. You got CeeDee Lamb there. Dak needs weapons there. Okay, all right. I mean, it's okay. But then I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. If I'm trying to get Aaron Rodgers to come to town, okay, I got DK Metcalf. Freiermuth is a good tight end. Okay. I just got rid of Najee Harris. Okay. And if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm looking at this going, who else am I going to throw to here? Because I'm going to guess defenses are going to focus on DK Metcalf. But you didn't draft a wide receiver. So does that make you lean towards their getting Aaron Rodgers or not getting Aaron Rodgers? And if they're getting rid of one of their better wide receivers, who else are they getting rid of? Are the Steelers looking at surveying, let's just start with their division. Where do they stand? Well, they're third. Okay. You got TJ Watt who's going to want $40 million a year. Are you going to pony up for that? What do you have to pay Aaron Rodgers if he comes to town? If you're Aaron Rodgers, do you want to come to town? Cowboys, they got to roll the dice. I mean, you're in a tough division, and the Giants will be better. The over-under for the Cowboys is 7.5 wins. That's surprising to me because I would have thought maybe at 9.5. But you're in there with Washington. Now, I think Washington takes a step back a little bit because they won, I think, 7 games in the last possession. You can't sustain that. The Eagles, we know, will be really good. And the Giants will get better as well. But if you're Dallas, you got to do something. I would expect that they do more than this. You still got to pay Micah Parsons. Dak at his age and injury prone. I don't like that situation. I thought that they were going to make a splash and go after Ashton Genty. I thought, okay, Jerry's going to go and get his next Emmitt Smith. In fact, Genty was described as Emmitt Smith with more speed. So the Cowboys roll the dice. They make a move here, and Steelers get a third-round draft pick. And it might be addition by subtraction if you look at what George Pickens has meant to this team. But Pittsburgh's got to do a whole lot better when it comes to wide receivers and quarterbacks. But, these guys don't get second contracts. None of them. But you make a move, are there other moves to be made for both of these teams? Because they're both kind of, where are we? You know, Dallas might be third in their division, Pittsburgh third in their division. But we'll check in with the Steelers coming up a little bit later on.